Right, here we are, 26th of February 2020. Dad's going to answer some specific Spitfire questions. So, Dad, when was the first time you flew a Spitfire?
Hard to answer that question exactly without referring to my logbook, which Anthony has. But I suspect it was in 1943 sometime.
Right, and were you excited? What were your first thoughts when you got in the plane?
I was taking the shits
Why?
because I'd never flown one of them before. And it's a big thing to get into a different kind of aeroplane without any instruction and then just flying it.
You didn't get any instruction?
Well, I've got a handbook to read
A handbook, yeah.
about the size of this.
Jeff wants to know, did you really smuggle Johnny Walker Red in the ammo compartments, or was that a tall tale?
And a case of gin.
So you actually took that with you up
And 24 bottles of wine.
up to Borneo?
Yeah.
Okay, what did you do with it?
I sold them on Middleburg Island to a naval captain who was the secretary of their officers' club.
Did you get a good deal?
I think I sold them for 10,000 guilders, which is about $2,000.
Can you repeat your story about the guy who exited the aircraft? There was a fellow that went down in Darwin in the Northern Territory, I think Colin Duncan. Was that his name? Did you know him?
No.
No? So there's... I might have to ask you this on Saturday because I'll have to print out. There was a plane that was found in the Northern Territory and the fellow survived for 5 days and continued. He lived till he was quite old, but he was out in the desert in the Northern Territory for 5 days with burns and no food and everything. Do you remember that?
No, it wasn't me.
Did you tell Jeffrey about a story about some guy who exited the
Yes.
plane? Can you relay that?
Yes,
Repeat that again?
It was a boomerang, it wasn't a Spitfire. Well, we were returning. Oh, Jesus.
Come on, focus.
We were returning south from Exmouth Gulf to Perth, and I was flying in a formation of 4 boomerangs, and a fellow named Turnbull, I'm pretty sure it was Turnbull, was flying number 3 in this 4 aircraft formation, and he suddenly came on the radio and said, there is smoke coming from behind my dash panel. I am going to leave. And I watched him open the canopy and just jump out of the aeroplane and open his parachute.
Was he found?
Yeah, he was found that day or the next day.
And the plane crashed, obviously.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Did you only fly Mark 8 Spitfires?
No, I converted to Spitfires on Mark 5s and number 85 Squadron in Western Australia.
Did your Spitfire have reinforced steel floors to carry your massive steel balls? I don't know what that means, but it was a question that he's put down.
Uh,
Is he referring to your courage?
Testicles?
Courage?
I don't think so. But we had half inch, about 3/4 of a metre square, half inch armour plate steel behind our seat. That was the only armoured protection on the aeroplane.
Was that to stop them from other planes from shooting you up through the floor, or what was it
no.
for?
Well, it was to try and protect bullets from coming from behind the aeroplane and going into your body.
Okay. What was the most harrowing experience from flying on any of your missions? What was the one most harrowing experience?
Probably when I was on an air test at Morotai, I had a port magneto shot out in the Halmahera archipelago, and they put a new engine in the aeroplane, and the engineer officer asked me to fly as high as possible when I was doing the engine tests to discover what altitude I could actually reach in the tropics. And I got up to 42,000 feet. And the air temperature was at minus 54 degrees, and the moisture in my breath was freezing to ice in my oxygen mask, so I was having difficulty breathing, and I was starting to get the bends in my left wrist, which is very, very painful. The bends is when nitrogen dissolved in your bloodstream starts boiling off in bubbles because of the low air pressure.
So what did you do?
I descended to 25,000 feet as fast as I could.
Did the training or the experimental training that you had in Victoria to do with the pressure and
Yes.
did that assist you in dealing with that?
That was how I knew what the bends were.
Okay.
I could recognise the symptoms.
So if you hadn't had that training in Victoria, what would have happened?
I would have descended straight down to sea level and probably died from the nitrogen bubbles in my blood.
Okay. Were you responsible for the crashing of the plane QYR? Do you remember that?
No. As far as I'm aware, QYR was never in an air accident. I flew it back to Rockhampton.
What happened when another pilot trashed his plane?
Well, I saw a kiddie hawk try to land at Zamboanga one time with the wheels retracted, and it had an auxiliary fuel tank underneath, which immediately burst into flames and incinerated the aircraft and the pilot.
It's not nice. I'm going to read out a couple of bits here, and I just want to know if you knew any of these people. I don't know what it means though. A58-534, LF8 V111, MT781 arrived on SS Lanarkshire on the 27th of July 44, received 2 ADX UK, allocated 14 ARD reserve pool. What's all this stuff mean? And then he ended up accident landing collision Merauke with 3 other Spitfires.
Well, that was when we were initially ferrying the squadron of Spitfires from Oakey up to Morotai. Cloud, we took off this morning, the squadron of 24 Spitfires, led by a bowfighter for navigation and trailed by a Catalina flying boat for rescue, and we reached an altitude of about 18,000 feet, and heavy cloud cut across the Owen Stanley Ranges, which are continuously covered in snow at 13,500 feet, and heavy cloud formed around the entire squadron in a matter of 5 or 10 minutes. So we had to abandon our formation of 26 aeroplanes, 24 Spits and the Bowfighter and the Catalina, and we descended to about 3,000 feet, well away from the mountains, and 3 of the aeroplanes were involved in some sort of an accident. I believe 2 of them did not get back to the airfield, but one did return to the airfield at Merauke with severely bent wings caused by recovering from a 600 mile an hour dive. I subsequently went on a 50-foot Air Force crash launch up the Merauke River with Warrant Officer Felgenhauer in search of the crashed remains of the other 2 aircraft, but we never found anything.
That looks like it was in December 1944.
Probably right.
I'm going to say some names from Squadron 452. Jeff would like to know if you knew any of these guys. Flight Sergeant Tapp, Warrant Officer Burns, Flying Officer Barton.
I knew Burns.
You knew Burns. P.O. Weger, W-E-G-E-R. F.L. McNaughton.
No.
And F.L. Cormack.
No.
But you knew Burns. Okay.
Yeah.
Just a couple more questions, which I think we can fit in. 3 more. Where were you when the oil line was reinstalled incorrectly and your engine seized up? In other words, on the 10th of June 1944, Flight Sergeant you were had to carry a forced landing at Guildford.
That's right. I was at Guildford. I was test flying the aircraft at Guildford in Western Australia.
All right. And what happened?
I was doing engine tests. This aircraft had just come out of a 240-hour inspection of the engine and airframe, and I was test flying the aircraft.
What sort of plane was it?
A boomerang. And I was increasing the throttle setting at 7,000 feet doing engine tests, and I noticed the oil pressure dropped to zero. I throttled back and immediately came into land on the airstrip, but the engine seized solid at about 1,000 feet, but I managed to land the aircraft, and I was awarded the King's Commendation for meritorious flying.
And on the 6th of July 1943 at 14:45 hours, in Squadron 85, you made a wheels up landing at Guildford, Western Australia, when the undercarriage failed to lower. Do you remember that? What do you remember of that event?
Again, this was an aircraft that had just come out of an airframe inspection, and I was test flying this aircraft, and when I went to lower the undercarriage, it would not lower, and I landed on the Gulf Fairway at Guildford without wheels, and when the aircraft was examined, they discovered that it was possible to insert the landing gear up latching pins in reverse order, which caused the accident.
And finally, would you do it all again?
Every bit of it.
Every bit of it. So none of it fazed you too much?
No.
No? All right, well, thank you. That's the end of today's recording.
Those must be AAAs, those bloody batteries.